Hello, welcome to Storytime. I'm Sharon Kimball, and today I'm reading Finding Francois. It's a story about the healing power of friendship, written and illustrated by Gus Gordon. You'll hear some French words in this story. Alice Bonnet lived with her grandmother on a hill in the middle of town. Together, they made a very good team, especially in the kitchen. "I am a big help, aren't I, Grandma?" Alice would ask. "You are a marvel," her grandmother always replied. Alice was a writer of lists. Every morning, she wrote a list of the many plans she had for the day. There were pictures to be drawn. Number 1, picture drawing. Number 2, crème brûlées to be eaten. 3, buttons to organize. 4, books to read. Fridays were Alice's favorite day. On Fridays, if the weather was fine, Alice and her grandmother walked down to the park for lunch. On the way, they would stop to say hello to all their friends. They would stop at the poissonnerie, where they bought fish, the boulangerie, where you could buy bread, the fromagerie, where you could buy cheese, and the fleuriste, where you could buy flowers. Alice was most fond of Miss Clément, the dressmaker. She often had a surprise for Alice. She worked at the couturière. There were some days, however, when Alice wished she had someone her own size to talk to. A sister or even a brother, especially on stormy nights when she was trying hard to be brave, or when her grandmother was elsewhere, like here in the picture when she's sleeping. One morning early, before the birds had eaten their breakfasts, Alice walked down to the river. She had a plan. From her bag, Alice pulled out a bottle and tossed it into the water. The bottle quickly floated out of sight, all the way down the river and out into the ocean. It was captured for a moment, picked up, and dropped. Then it drifted even onward until it arrived in a different place, a long way from where it had begun. Francois Poulain was walking along the shore when he saw it, a bottle swirling among the seaweed. Inside the bottle, to his surprise, was a message. It read, "Hello, I am Alice." Francois was certain this had never happened to him before. He wrote a carefully considered reply, then threw the bottle back into the water. It zigzagged out to sea on the ocean currents. A fisherman caught the bottle, then threw it back. It sat for the time inside the belly of a whale, but soon it emerged. Whoop! Then it drifted ever onward until it arrived a long way from where it had begun. Alice had been waiting for a whole week when she spotted a familiar-looking bottle one afternoon. She was thrilled to see that there was a message inside. It read, "Hello, Alice. I am Francois. Where are you?" What a good question, thought Alice. I shall explain everything. Excitedly, Alice gathered all her thoughts together. I am over here. What are you doing over there? It was a worthy response, and Alice was pleased with it. She put her message back in the bottle and sent it on its way. The bottle returned to Alice a week later with another message and a hand-drawn map. I live in a lighthouse with my father. It's a bit lonely sometimes, but I can see all the water in the sea from my window. Where is here? I live with my grandma. She makes the best creme brulee in all of France. I think I would like to live by the sea. Have you ever seen a flying fish? I had a pet flying fish once, but it flew away. And so it went, back and forth across the sea. Like Alice, Francois loved writing lists and reading books, and drawing mermaids too. Alice wasn't expecting that. But Francois also loved dancing and wearing funny hats and origami and garlic butter and flower arranging. Francois was very interesting indeed. Charmant, thought the grandmother. Alice realized she didn't need a sister or even a brother. She had found Francois. Then, one day, Alice's grandmother was gone. There's just an empty chair. Alice stares out the window. It says triste, et le jour pour moi sera comme la nuit. Sad, and the day for me is like the night. And I can't turn my page. Alice went to live with Miss Clément. Miss Clément did everything she could to make Alice happy. But Alice's thoughts were with her grandmother. She didn't feel like drawing mermaids, or writing lists, or sending messages. On a pebbly beach far away, Francois Poulin walked the shoreline. All sorts of things made their way to the island, but the bottle he shared with Alice never was one of them. Maybe Alice has forgotten me, he thought. A year went by. Over time, the dark clouds slowly packed up their things and shuffled into the distance, and the sun sprung forth from wherever it was hiding. One evening, Miss Clément spotted something in Alice's wardrobe she had never noticed before. It was the bottle. That night, Alice told her everything about her plan, about the bottle, about the lighthouse, and the flying fish, and the sea, but mostly about finding Francois. Well, we must go and visit them, announced Miss Clément. First, it's only polite that we let them know we're coming. Francois was collecting shells one afternoon when he saw a bottle swirling among the seaweed. He recognized it at once. Inside was a message. It read, "Hello, Francois. It is Alice. Miss Clément and I are coming to visit you. Please put the kettle on." Alice and Miss Clément arrived in time for afternoon tea. Everyone was very excited. Francois's father baked lemon muffins. Alice had no idea that lighthouse keepers were so good at baking muffins. Miss Clément told stories that made everyone laugh. That night, a wild storm battered the lighthouse, but Alice wasn't afraid. Well, maybe just a little bit. The next day, Francois showed Alice how to spot a whale. Then he lost his hat to the sea. Francois said it was the third hat that week. Luckily, he had lots of hats. In the morning, it was time to leave for home. Miss Clément needed to get back to her shop. Alice didn't want to leave, not now. Then Alice had a brilliant idea. Perhaps Francois could visit Alice and Miss Clément? Everyone agreed that it was a brilliant idea. When Alice arrived home, she wrote a list of things she really wanted to do. Number 1, play hopscotch with friends I haven't met yet. Number 2, make a favorite dessert. 3, finish something unfinished. Then she wrote another list, especially for Francois's upcoming visit. Here's the list. Plans for Francois's visit. Eat crème brûlée, 20 minutes, maybe more. Draw mermaids, 2 hours. Hopscotch, 45 minutes with an asterisk. Origami, 1 hour. Flower arranging, 51 minutes. Dancing, until we fall over. Wear funny hats, all afternoon. Asterisk, may change if our tummies are hurting from laughing. And she always had a message to send to Francois. You are a marvel, Francois. And so it went, back and forth across the sea. Good night, Alice. Good night, Francois. That's the end of Finding Francois, a very good friend for a lonely Alice. Hello, this is Sharon Kimball with Storytime. Today I have Isabella, artist extraordinaire. How inspired can a little girl be? This has an author and an illustrator. The author is Jennifer Fosbury, and the illustrator is Mike Litwin. Here's the story of Isabella. Isabella, no school today, the father said. We should go somewhere special. Home is special, said the little girl. She sat and thought. Yes, but how about the park, asked Mother. Let me think about it. An afternoon in the park would be lovely, said the little girl. But Alexander's party is there this Sunday. Good point, the mother said. What about horseback riding? Asked Father. I love horses, said the little girl, but not today. Let's cross that idea off the list. How about the lake? The father asked. A boat party would be fun, said the little girl, but it's awfully chilly today. Should we go into the city? The mother asked. We could take the train, the father said. A modern day adventure, said the little girl, but home is fun too. How about ballet? The mother asked. The ballet is beautiful, said the little girl, but I was under the impression that I got to pick what we do. Besides, you can just watch my class next week. Another good point, the mother said. Pick some place or we'll be staring at a starry night and we won't be going anywhere, the father said. I know, said the little girl. There are so many places I could just scream. We could hop out for some ice cream, the mother said. I love ice cream, said the little girl, but maybe we should save that for another night. I suppose we could pop down to the store, the mother said. A nice warm bowl of soup sounds great, said the little girl. I've got it. I'll do something special for us, said the little girl. I'll whistle when I'm ready, Mother. Voila! We can go everywhere and see everything right here, Isabella said, and the little girl led her family to a most wondrous place. A museum of her own making, with all the pictures and all the places they talked about, all drawn by Isabella and all over her wall. Here are the pictures she was thinking of. A thinker, a Sunday in the park, Napoleon crossing the Alps, a boating party, a very modern construction, dancers in the blue, a starry night, a scream, nighthawks, Campbell's soup cans, and Whistler's mother. And they all became Isabella's drawings right at home where she wanted to stay. Do you like to draw? Maybe you could draw a painting. Thank you for coming to Storytime today.
Hello, welcome to Storytime. My name is Jane Rabbit, and I'm going to read this wonderful book to you. It was written by Maria Dismondy and illustrated by Donna Farrell. And the name of the book is Chocolate Milk, Por Favor. And as I'm reading, I want you to think about what would be like for you if your parents said, we're moving to a different country, and you didn't know the language, and how that would be, how you would survive in school till you learned the language. So here we go. Johnny was walking into school when he first saw the new kid. What a baby, he thought, as the boy cried and held his mother's hand. She whispered something to him, words that sounded different to Johnny. Delicioso. The boy smacked his lips as his mother handed him a chocolate milk. Let's welcome Gabe to our classroom family. He will not understand our words at first. Think about what you can do to help him. Johnny's teacher announced with a smile. Johnny didn't smile. He didn't like boys who cried. At reading time, Gabe sat next to Johnny. Johnny pulled his book close to his chest. I'm not sharing with him, he thought. Crybaby, whispered Johnny to Gabe. Gabe didn't say a word. It was lunchtime. Gabe whispered to the lunch aide, Leche con chocolate, por favor? The boy behind him announced, I think he wants a chocolate milk. Johnny watched his friend help Gabe and spoke up. Look, he's not like us. He can't even order lunch. Johnny sat and enjoyed his lunch while Gabe sat alone, drinking his chocolate milk. During recess, Johnny spotted Gabe doing a tricky soccer move he's been trying to master for weeks. He just couldn't do it. Join our team, a girl shouted to Gabe. Gabe didn't move until she motioned for him to come over. Gabe waved over to Johnny before running to the field, but Johnny ignored him. The team high-fived their new teammate. "Well, look at him. He thinks he's so cool," Johnny told himself as he blinked back tears. "I won't be a crybaby." Johnny's jaw dropped. Why were they being nice to Gabe? What fun was he when he couldn't even talk? All week, Johnny watched Gabe from a distance. Gabe came to school every day. He still never said anything, but was trying new things. By the end of the week, Johnny sat alone at lunch. Gabe was surrounded by boys and girls, laughing and sharing with him. At recess that day, Gabe kicked the soccer ball over to Johnny. Johnny shook his head no. Gabe did the tricky move anyhow. "It's so hard. How do you do it?" Johnny asked. Gabe showed him the move over and over again. Finally, Johnny did it. "Yes," he shouted. Gabe beamed and patted him on the back. As Johnny walked back to the school, Gabe silently by his side, something clicked for him. He got it, that horrible feeling of being frustrated and wanting to cry because he couldn't get the soccer move. That's how Gabe must have felt learning a new language. "I did it. I finally got the tricky move, and Gabe is getting it, too," Johnny believed. "Thank you," Gabe replied. Johnny and Gabe both smiled. Today would be a great day. Johnny learned that actions speak louder than words. He understood that to have a friend is first to be a friend, and having a friend meant the world to Johnny. On the last page here, this is a picture of, whoops, I don't have to turn around. This is the picture of the little boy that this storybook was based on. The real Gabe. Thank you. Hello, welcome to Story Hour. My name is Jane Rabbit, and I'm going to read The Little House to you. It's by Virginia Lee Burton, and she also did all of the pictures. This book was first published quite a while before even I was born. So it's an old one, but the message is very pertinent. You'll like it. Once upon a time, there was a little house way out in the country. She was a pretty little house, and she was strong and well built. The man who built her so well said, "This little house shall never be sold for gold or silver, and she will live to see our great-great-grandchildren's great-great-grandchildren living in her." The little house was very happy as she sat on the hill and watched the countryside around her. She watched the sun rise in the morning, and she watched the sun set in the evening. Day followed day, each one a little different from the one before, but the little house stayed just the same. In the nights, she watched the moon grow from a thin new moon to a full moon, then back again to a thin old moon. And when there was no moon, she watched the stars. Way off in the distance, she could see the lights of the city. The little house was curious about the city and wondered what it would be like to live there. Time passed quickly for the little house as she watched the countryside slowly change with the seasons. In the spring, when the days grew longer and the sun warmer, she waited for the first robin to return from the south. She watched the grass turn green. She watched the buds in the trees swell and the apple trees burst into blossom. She watched the children playing in the brook. In the long summer days, she sat in the sun and watched the trees cover themselves with leaves and the white daisies cover the hill. She watched the gardens grow, and she watched the apples turn red and ripen. She watched the children swimming in the pool. In the fall, when the days grew shorter and the nights colder, she watched the first frost turn the leaves to bright yellow and orange and red. She watched the harvest gathered and the apples picked. She watched the children going back to school. In the winter, when the nights were long and the days short and the countryside covered with snow, she watched the children coasting and skating. Year followed year, the apple trees grew old and new ones were planted. The children grew up and went away to the city, and now at night the lights of the city seemed brighter and closer. One day the little house was surprised to see a horseless carriage coming down the winding country road. Pretty soon there were more of them on the road and fewer carriages pulled by horses. Pretty soon along came some surveyors and surveyed a line in front of the little house. Pretty soon along came a steam shovel and dug a road through the hill covered with daisies. Then some trucks came and dumped big stones on the road. And then some trucks with little stones, and then some trucks with tar and sand. And finally a steamroller came and rolled it all smooth, and the road was done. Now the little house watched the trucks and automobiles going back and forth to the city. Gasoline stations, roadside stands followed the new road. Everyone and everything moved much faster now than before. More roads were made and the countryside was divided into lots. More houses and bigger houses, apartment houses and tenement houses. Schools, stores, and garages spread over the land and crowded around the little house. No one wanted to live in her and take care of her anymore. She couldn't be sold for gold or silver, so she just stayed there and watched as the buildings grew up around her. Now it was not so quiet and peaceful at night. Now the lights of the city were bright and very close, and the street lights shone all night. This must be living in the city, thought the little house, and didn't know whether she liked it or not. She missed the fields of daisies and the apple trees dancing in the moonlight. Pretty soon, there were trolley cars going back and forth in front of the little house. They went back and forth all day and part of the night. Everyone seemed to be very busy, and everyone seemed to be in a hurry. And you can barely see the little house here because it's surrounded by traffic and those big buildings. Pretty soon, there was an elevated train going back and forth above the little house. The air was filled with dust and smoke, and the noise was so loud that it shook the little house. Now she couldn't tell when spring came, or summer, or fall, or winter. It all seemed about the same. Pretty soon there was a subway going back and forth underneath the little house. She couldn't see it, but she could feel and hear it. People were moving faster and faster. No one noticed the little house anymore. They hurried by without a glance. Pretty soon they tore down the apartment houses and tenement houses around the little house and started digging big cellars, one on each side. The steam shovels dug down 3 stories on one side and 4 stories on the other. Pretty soon they started building up. They built up 25 stories on one side and 35 stories on the other. and you can barely see the little house now. Now the little house only saw the sun at noon and didn't see the moon or stars at night at all, because the lights of the city were too bright. She didn't like living in the city. At night, she used to dream of the country and the field of daisies and the apple trees dancing in the moonlight. The little house was very sad and lonely. Her paint was cracked and dirty. Her windows were broken and her shutters hung crookedly. She looked shabby, though she was just as good a house as ever underneath. And if you look at the little house now, she almost looks like she's crying. Then one fine morning in spring, along came the great-great-granddaughter of the man who built the little house so well. She saw the shabby little house, but she didn't hurry by. There was something about the little house that made her stop and look again. She said to her husband, "That little house looks just like the little house my grandmother lived in when she was a little girl." Only that little house was way out in the country on a hill covered with daisies and apple trees growing around. They found out it was the very same house, so they went to the movers to see if the little house could be moved. The movers looked the little house all over and said, "Sure, this house is as good as ever. She's built so well, and we could move her anywhere." So they jacked up the little house and put her on wheels. Traffic was held up for hours as they slowly moved her out of the city. At first, the little house was frightened, but after she got used to it, she rather liked it. They rolled along the big road and they rolled along the little roads until they were way out in the country. When the little house saw the green grass and heard the birds singing, she didn't feel so sad anymore. They went along and along, but they couldn't seem to find just the right place. They tried the little house here and they tried her there. Finally, they saw a little hill in the middle of a field and apple trees growing around. "There," said the great-great-granddaughter, "that's just the place." "Yes, it is," said the little house to herself. A cellar was dug on top of the hill, and slowly they moved the house from the road to the hill. The windows and shutters were fixed, and once again they painted her a lovely shade of pink. As the little house settled down on her new foundation, she smiled happily. Once again, she could watch the sun and moon and stars. Once again, she could watch spring and summer and fall and winter come and go. Once again, she was lived in and taken care of. Never again would she be curious about the city. Never again would she want to live there. The stars twinkled above her. A new moon was coming up. It was spring, and all was quiet and peaceful in the country. So thank you for listening to Storytime today.
Hello, boys and girls. My name is Kevin McNally, and I'm going to be reading to you today. I'm going to be reading Follow That Truck, and it's a book that's been in the family, and it was well received by my son, so I'm going to share it with you. It's written by Jim Razzie and illustrated by Paul Richet. It's called Follow That Truck. Here is a truck carrying trees. Let's follow that truck and see where it goes. It goes to the wood factory. Buzz. The tree is cut into nice, even pieces. Put the pieces on another truck and let's follow that wood truck. It goes to the furniture factory. Bang, bang. The pieces are made into furniture. Put the furniture on another truck. Let's follow that furniture truck. It goes to the furniture store. You buy the furniture. Put the furniture on another truck. Let's follow that store truck. It goes to your house. How do you like your new chair? Here is a truck carrying cows. Let's follow that cow truck. It goes to the dairy farm. The cows get off, and they're going to live with Farmer Brown. Moo! Farmer Brown milks the cows. Put the milk into another truck. Let's follow that milk truck. It goes to the dairy. Swoosh! Some of the milk is poured into containers. Churn! A part of the milk is churned into butter. Whir! Part of the milk is made into ice cream. Put the ice cream on an ice cream truck. Let's follow that ice cream truck. It goes to your block. Yummy, what is your favorite flavor? Here is a truck carrying metal. Let's follow that metal truck. It goes to the metal factory. The factory is a rolling mill. Crunch. Heavy rollers rolled the metal into sheets. Put the sheets of metal on the truck. Let's follow the sheet metal truck. It goes to the automobile factory. Clang and bang. The sheets are used to make cars and trucks. Put the cars on a car truck. Let's follow that car truck. It goes to the car lot. You sit in the car. Would you like to take a ride? Here is a truck carrying wool. Let's follow that wool truck. Where does it go? It goes to the cloth mill. Spin, whiz. The wool is made into cloth. Put the cloth on a truck. Let's follow the cloth truck. It goes to the clothing factory. Snip, snap. The cloth is made into clothing. Put the clothing on a truck. Let's follow the clothing truck. It goes to the clothing store. Now you have a new dress or pants for school. Here is a truck carrying paper. Let's follow that paper truck. It goes to the printer. Clickety-clack. The printer makes books with paper. Put the books on a truck. Let's follow the book truck. It goes to the bookstore. Now you can choose books and look at to read. The end. Theodore Mouse Goes to Sea by Michaela Muntean, illustrated by Lucinda McQueen. Every morning, Theodore Mouse woke up with a sunrise. He made his bed, he brushed his teeth, and combed his whiskers. Then he climbed to the roof of his house and looked out over the rooftops of the other mouse houses. He looked out beyond the trees and beyond the shoreline to the sea. Every morning is the same, Theodore said. I make my bed, I brush my teeth, I comb my whiskers. Then I climb up to the roof. The only thing that changes, Theodore sighed, is the sea. Sometimes it is rough and wild, and sometimes it is smooth as glass. Then Theodore Mouse thought of something he had never thought of before. I will go to sea, he cried. I will sail around the world, and every morning I will wake up in a new and different place. But then Theodore thought of something else he hadn't thought of before. He didn't have a boat. He sat for a while wondering what to do. My bed will be my boat, Theodore decided. My sheet will be my sail, and I will be the captain of my ship. So Theodore huffed and puffed and pushed and pulled his bed to the shore. His mother and father and sisters and brothers and aunts and uncles all came to see him off. What if you meet pirate cats, his mother cried. I will bash them and smash them, Theodore answered bravely. What if you meet wild water rats, his sister cried. I will bop them and bang them, Theodore replied, and off he sailed. Theodore saw many things he had never seen before. He sailed to warm tropical lands. He ate mangoes and pineapple and slept under palm trees. He sailed to snowy, icy lands. He met Eskimo mice who taught him how to cut holes in the ice and fish in the cold waters. Then one day, while Theodore was sailing, a big storm blew up. The sky turned black. The boat rocked this way and that. Theodore's stomach rocked this way and that too. Just when he thought things couldn't get any worse, they did. A big ship of pirate cats sailed up on his port side. A big ship of wild water rats sailed up on his starboard side. Poor Theodore was all alone in the middle. What was he going to do? Suddenly, Theodore had an idea. He threw one of his pillows at the cats. He threw his other pillow at the rats. Feathers flew in all directions. They stuck to the wet fur of the pirate cats, and they stuck to the wet fur of the water rats. The feathers made them sneeze and wheeze and cough and gasp, but all Theodore Mouse did was laugh. "Ha ha," he cried, "you all look like a bunch of chickens," and he sailed away as fast as he could. The sky cleared and the sun shone. "I think it's time to set sail for home," said Theodore Mouse. Then Theodore Mouse climbed to the roof of his house, where all the other mice were waiting to hear about his wonderful adventures on the high seas. The end. Yay.